The dust from the stagecoach hadn't even settled when Zara Caldwell stepped onto the wooden planks of Coolidge's Main Street, her worn carpet bag clutched in her sun-darkened hand, and realized with a sinking certainty that she had made a terrible mistake coming to this God-forsaken corner of Arizona territory in 1883. The heat pressed against her like a living thing, and she could feel the eyes of every soul in town tracking her movement as she walked toward the boarding house Mrs. Patterson had mentioned in her terse letter of employment. Zara was 22 years old, and in all those years, not a single person had ever celebrated the day she came into this world, a fact that had carved itself so deeply into her heart that she'd stopped expecting anything different. She pushed open the door to Patterson's boarding house, grateful for the shade if not the cooler temperature. A gray-haired woman looked up from her accounting ledger, her spectacles sliding down her nose as she assessed the new arrival with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen every type of drifter and dreamer the West had to offer. "You'd be Miss Caldwell, then," the woman said, not unkindly. "I'm Margaret Patterson. Your room's upstairs, second on the left. Supper's at 6 sharp. You'll start at the general store tomorrow morning at 7. "Thank you, madam," Zara said, her voice hoarse from the long journey. She'd come all the way from Kansas City, where she'd been working in a textile factory for pittance wages and sleeping in a room she shared with 4 other girls. When the opportunity to work as a clerk in a general store out west had presented itself, she'd seized it without hesitation, even though it meant leaving behind the only city she'd ever known. That first night in Coolidge, Zara lay on her narrow bed and listened to the unfamiliar sounds of the desert town. Somewhere a piano played badly, and men's voices rose and fell in laughter or argument. She couldn't tell which. She thought about her mother, dead these 15 years, and her father, who'd remarried so quickly Zara might as well have been invisible in their household. Her stepmother had made it clear that Zara was a burden, another mouth to feed in a house already straining with her father's drinking and gambling. When Zara turned 16, she'd left without a backward glance, and in the 6 years since, she'd carved out a solitary existence that was marked by work and little else. Tomorrow was her birthday. She'd be 23. She knew, with the certainty of long experience, that it would pass like any other day. The general store was larger than she'd expected, filled with everything from saddles to sewing needles, from ammunition to canned peaches. Mr. Donnelly, the proprietor, was a portly man with kind eyes who showed her the inventory system and the cash register with patient thoroughness. "You'll do just fine, Miss Caldwell," he said, nodding approvingly. "We get all sorts in here, from ranch hands to proper ladies. Just keep your wits about you and holler if anyone gives you trouble." The morning passed in a blur of customers and transactions. Zara served a Mexican woman who needed thread and buttons, a grizzled prospector who bought tobacco and beans, and a well-dressed gentleman who ordered a whole list of supplies to be delivered to his ranch outside town. She was measuring out fabric for a young mother when the bell above the door chimed, and she looked up to see a man who made her forget, just for a moment, what she was doing. He was tall, with broad shoulders that spoke of hard work under the sun, and he moved with the easy confidence of someone completely at home in his own skin. His hat was dusty from the trail, and his boots were worn but well cared for. But it was his eyes that caught her, gray-blue like a winter sky and warm with something that might have been humor. "Morning, Lucas," Mr. Donnelly called from the back. "Didn't expect you in town today." "Got business at the bank," the man replied, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate in Zara's chest. "Thought I'd pick up some supplies while I'm here, save myself a trip later in the week." "Miss Caldwell will help you," Mr. Donnelly said, gesturing toward Zara. "She's new. Started just this morning." Lucas Brennan removed his hat, revealing dark hair that was just long enough to curl at his collar. "Madam," he said, nodding to Zara with a courtesy that seemed genuine rather than perfunctory. "I've got a list, but I'm in no hurry. Help the lady with the fabric first." Zara felt heat rise to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the Arizona sun. "Thank you," she managed, turning her attention back to the young mother, though she was acutely aware of Lucas browsing the shelves behind her. When she finally turned to him, he handed her a piece of paper covered in neat handwriting. As she gathered his items, coffee and flour and sugar, rope and nails and ammunition, he leaned against the counter and watched her work. "You came in on yesterday's stage," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Zara replied, focusing on measuring the coffee beans into a paper sack. "From Kansas City." "That's a long way to come. You got family here?" "No, just work." He nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense. "Coolidge isn't much to look at, but the people are decent mostly. You need anything, the Brennan Ranch is about 5 miles northeast of town. Anyone can point you the right way." She glanced up at him, surprised by the offer. "That's kind of you, Mr. Brennan." "Lucas," he corrected. "Mr. Brennan was my father and he's been gone these 3 years." "I'm sorry," Zara said automatically. "Don't be. He lived a good life, died in his sleep. Can't ask for much better than that." Lucas paid for his supplies, counting out coins with work-roughened hands. "I'll be back Friday to pick these up if that suits." "Of course," Zara said, making a note in Mr. Donnelly's ledger. Lucas lingered a moment longer as if he wanted to say something else, but then he simply put his hat back on, tipped it to her, and walked out into the blazing afternoon. "That's Lucas Brennan," Mr. Donnelly said, coming to stand beside Zara. "Runs one of the best ranches in the territory. His father built it up from nothing, and Lucas has made it even better. Good man, fair and honest. You could do worse for a friend out here." Zara said nothing, but she found her gaze drifting to the window, where she could see Lucas mounting a handsome bay horse. He sat easy in the saddle, and as he turned the horse toward the edge of town, he looked back at the store. For just a moment, his eyes met hers through the glass, and then he was riding away, leaving nothing but dust and an odd flutter in her chest. That evening at supper, Mrs. Patterson introduced Zara to the other boarders. There was Samuel Wright, a clerk at the bank, and his sister Mary, who taught at the schoolhouse. There was also an older gentleman named Harold Fletcher who worked at the telegraph office, and a young couple, newly married, who were saving money to buy their own homestead. "How was your first day?" Mary asked kindly. She was perhaps 5 years older than Zara, with soft brown eyes and an easy smile. "Busy," Zara admitted, "but good. Mr. Donnelly is patient and the customers have been courteous." "Did you meet any of the local ranchers?" Samuel asked. "They come into town regular for supplies." "A man named Lucas Brennan came in," Zara said, trying to sound casual. Mary and Mrs. Patterson exchanged a look that Zara couldn't quite interpret. "Lucas is a good man," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. "Lost his father young, had to take over the ranch when he was barely 20. Could have sold it and lived easy in the city, but he worked it himself, built it into something his father would have been proud of. He's not married." Zara asked, then immediately regretted the question when Mary smiled knowingly. "No, though it's not for lack of interest from the eligible ladies hereabouts," Mary said. "He's just particular, I suppose, or maybe just too busy. Running a ranch is dawn to dusk work." The conversation moved on to other topics, but Zara found her thoughts returning to the tall rancher with the winter sky eyes. She told herself not to be foolish. She'd learned long ago not to hope for things that would never be hers. The next day dawned like the one before, hot and cloudless. Zara walked to the general store through streets already dusty and stirring with activity. Inside, she set about her tasks with the methodical efficiency she'd learned in the factory. Mr. Donnelly praised her organization and her neat handwriting, and by mid-morning, she felt almost comfortable in her new role. She was helping a rancher's wife select ribbon when Lucas walked in again. He caught her eye and nodded, then went about his business browsing the hardware section. The wife, a talkative woman named Mrs. Henderson, followed Zara's gaze and chuckled. "That's Lucas Brennan," she said. "Fine figure of a man, isn't he? My daughter's been setting her cap at him for 2 years, but he's friendly and nothing more. Between you and me, I think he's waiting for someone special." Zara murmured something non-committal and finished wrapping the ribbon. When Mrs. Henderson left, Lucas approached the counter. "Forgot I needed tobacco," he said, though something in his expression suggested this wasn't the whole truth. "And maybe some of those peppermints if you've got them." Zara fetched both items, her fingers brushing his as she handed him the small bag of candies. The touch sent an unexpected jolt through her, and she pulled back quickly. "You settling in all right?" Lucas asked. "Coolidge can be overwhelming at first, especially if you're used to city life." "I'm managing," Zara said. Then, because something about his genuine concern invited honesty, she added, "It's different but not bad different, just different." "Fair enough," Lucas said. He paid for his purchases, then hesitated. "There's a social at the church this Saturday evening. Nothing fancy, just music and dancing and food. If you're looking to meet folks, it's a good place to start." "I'll think about it," Zara said, though she had no intention of going. She didn't dance, didn't know how, and the thought of standing on the edges while everyone else enjoyed themselves held no appeal. Lucas seemed to read something in her expression because his own softened. "Well, if you change your mind, it starts at 7. You'd be welcome." After he left, Mr. Donnelly emerged from the storeroom with an approving look. "Lucas Brennan doesn't usually go out of his way to invite newcomers to socials," he observed. "He must have taken a shine to you." Zara busied herself with straightening the counter, unwilling to examine the small spark of hope that observation ignited. The week passed quickly. Zara learned the rhythm of the store, the regular customers and their habits, ebb and flow of busy times and quiet moments. She learned that Coolidge had been founded only 12 years earlier, that it relied on the railroad and the nearby ranches, that it was growing slowly but steadily as more people sought their fortunes in the territory. She also learned from Mary over supper one evening that her birthday was approaching, though of course no one in Coolidge knew it. Zara didn't mention it. What would be the point? She'd spent 22 birthdays unacknowledged and uncelebrated. This would simply be the 23rd. On Friday, Lucas came to collect his supplies. Zara had them ready, neatly packed and waiting. He loaded them onto his wagon with easy efficiency, then came back inside. "Did you decide about the social tomorrow?" he asked. "I don't think it's for me," Zara said honestly. "But thank you for the invitation." Lucas studied her for a long moment, his gray-blue eyes thoughtful. "Can I ask why not?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't really know anyone yet," she said, "and I'm not much for dancing." "That's what socials are for, though, getting to know people." Lucas leaned against the counter in no apparent hurry despite the wagon waiting outside. "And dancing's just moving to music, nothing to be afraid of." "I'm not afraid," Zara said, more sharply than she intended. Then softer, "I just don't see the point." "The point is living," Lucas said simply. "Enjoying yourself, taking a break from work and worry." He smiled then, and it transformed his whole face, made him look younger and lighter. "But I won't press you. Just know the invitation stands." That evening, Mary cornered Zara in the hallway of the boarding house. "You should go to the social," she said. I'll help you get ready if you like, and I'll introduce you to people. You won't be alone." "I appreciate that," Zara said, "but truly, I'd rather not." Mary looked disappointed but didn't push, and Zara was grateful. She didn't know how to explain that gatherings and celebrations had never been part of her life, that the idea of inserting herself into one felt as foreign as speaking a language she'd never learned. Saturday dawned, and Zara woke with a familiar hollow feeling in her chest. 23 years old today. She dressed for work as usual, braided her dark hair neatly, and walked to the general store through the already warming morning. Mr. Donnelly greeted her cheerfully and mentioned he'd be closing early for the social. "You're welcome to leave at 4, he said. "Give yourself time to get ready." "I'm not going," Zara admitted, "but thank you." Mr. Donnelly looked at her with something like understanding. "Well, the offer stands if you change your mind." The day passed slowly. Fewer customers came in, as most of the town was preparing for the evening's festivities. Zara restocked shelves and updated inventory lists, losing herself in the familiar comfort of work. When 4 o'clock came, Mr. Donnelly shooed her out, locking the door behind them both. Zara returned to the boarding house, which was eerily quiet. Everyone had already left for the church. She sat in her room as the afternoon light slanted through the window, telling herself she was content with her own company, that she didn't need celebrations or recognition. But the hollow feeling remained, a familiar ache she'd carried for so long she sometimes forgot it was there. She was considering going downstairs to see if there was anything to eat when she heard a knock at the front door. Curious, since everyone else was gone, she made her way down the stairs and opened it. Lucas Brennan stood on the porch, cleaned up and dressed in what were clearly his best clothes, his hat in his hands. "Mr. Brennan," Zara said, surprised. "The social is at the church, not here." "I know," Lucas said, "but I'm not here for the social. Not yet anyway. I'm here for you." Zara's heart did something complicated in her chest. "I told you I'm not going." "I know that too," Lucas said. His expression was gentle, patient. "But I have something for you, and I was hoping you might spare me a few minutes of your time." Confused and intrigued despite herself, Zara stepped onto the porch. "What is it?" Lucas gestured to his wagon, which she now saw was parked in front of the boarding house. "If you'll come with me, I'd like to show you. It's not far, and I promise to have you back before dark if you want." Every sensible instinct told Zara to decline, to retreat to her room and her solitude. But something in Lucas's eyes, a warmth and sincerity she'd rarely encountered, made her hesitate. "Why?" she asked finally. "You barely know me." "True enough," Lucas agreed. "But I'd like to remedy that if you're willing, and I have a good reason, I promise." Against her better judgment, Zara found herself nodding. "All right, but just for a little while." Lucas's smile was bright enough to rival the Arizona sun. He helped her into the wagon with courteous hands, then climbed up beside her and took the reins. They rode through town in companionable silence, heading northeast, away from the church and the sound of music already beginning. "Where are we going?" Zara asked as the town fell away behind them. "My ranch," Lucas said. "Don't worry, my housekeeper Maria is there, along with a couple of the hands. Everything's proper." Zara should have protested, should have insisted on being returned to town. Instead, she found herself curious about where this man lived, what kind of life he'd built for himself. The Brennan Ranch appeared on the horizon as they crested a low rise, and Zara caught her breath at the sight. The house was adobe and wood, sprawling but not ostentatious, with a wide porch and windows that caught the golden afternoon light. Beyond it stretched corrals and outbuildings, and in the distance, cattle dotted the landscape like scattered dark stones. Lucas pulled the wagon up in front of the house and helped Zara down. A Mexican woman, her graying hair pulled back in a neat bun, appeared in the doorway, smiling broadly. "Maria, this is Miss Zara Caldwell," Lucas said. "Zara, this is Maria Gonzalez. She runs this house and everything in it and has since my father was alive." "Welcome, welcome," Maria said, her English accented but clear. "Come inside, everything is ready." Zara followed them both inside, her confusion growing. The interior of the house was comfortable and clean, with furniture that was well made if not fancy, and touches that spoke of a man who cared about his home. But it was the dining room that made her stop in her tracks. The table was set for two, with actual china plates and glasses, and in the center was a cake, frosted and decorated with painstaking care. Around it were wildflowers in a jar, their bright colors cheerful against the dark wood. "What is this?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas stood beside her, his expression almost shy. "It's your birthday, isn't it? Today, I mean. You're 23. Zara felt the blood drain from her face. "How did you know that? When Mr. Donnelly hired you, he had to verify your references and your credentials. Your birth date was in the paperwork. I saw it when I was at his office earlier this week, discussing a business matter." Lucas shifted his weight, suddenly looking uncertain. "I hope I'm not overstepping." "It's just that I got the impression you weren't planning to celebrate, and I thought maybe someone should." Zara stared at the cake, at the flowers, at this man who had gone to such trouble for a woman he barely knew. Her throat tightened and she felt the sting of tears she absolutely would not shed. "No one's ever," she began, then had to stop and gather herself. "I've never had anyone remember my birthday, not since my mother died when I was 7. The words hung in the air, raw and honest. Lucas's expression softened into something that made Zara's heart ache. "Well then," he said quietly, "I'm glad I could be the first, even if it is presumptuous of me." "It's not presumptuous," Zara said, and found she meant it. "It's kind, incredibly kind." Maria bustled forward, beaming. "Sit, sit. I made roasted chicken and vegetables, and the cake is chocolate, which Senor Lucas said most people like. We will have a proper birthday dinner, yes." Zara allowed herself to be led to the table, still feeling as if she were in a dream. Lucas sat across from her, and Maria served the food with obvious pride. It was delicious, better than anything Zara had eaten in months, maybe years. As they ate, Lucas asked her about her life, her journey west, what she thought of Coolidge. Zara found herself answering more honestly than she'd intended, telling him about the factory in Kansas City, about the crowded boarding house there, about her decision to seek something different even if it meant leaving everything familiar behind. "I understand that," Lucas said. "My father brought us out here when I was 10. My mother hated it at first, missed St. Louis something fierce. But eventually she came to love it, said the space and the sky made up for all the hardships." "Is she still alive?" Zara asked. "No. She died when I was 17, fever. My father never really recovered from losing her, though he kept the ranch going for my sake." Lucas smiled slightly. "They loved each other, something powerful. I always hoped I'd find that someday." "Haven't you?" Zara asked, then blushed at her own forwardness. "I'm sorry, that's not my business." "Don't apologize," Lucas said. "And no, I haven't. Not yet, anyway." Their eyes met across the table, and Zara felt something shift between them, something warm and promising and terrifying all at once. After dinner, Maria brought out the cake, and Lucas lit a candle he'd stuck in the center. "I know it's only one candle," he said. "But 23 seemed like overkill, and I figured the symbolism is what matters." Zara looked at the flickering flame, at this man who had done something no one else in her entire life had thought to do, and felt something crack open in her chest, some hard shell she'd built around herself. "Make a wish," Lucas said gently. Zara closed her eyes. She wished for this, for more of this, for the possibility that she might not always be alone and forgotten. Then she blew out the candle and Maria clapped her hands in delight. The cake was as good as it looked, rich and sweet. They ate generous slices, and Maria insisted Zara take the rest back to the boarding house. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, Lucas walked Zara out to the porch. "Thank you," Zara said, and the words felt woefully inadequate. "This was the most wonderful birthday I've ever had." "I'm glad," Lucas said. He reached out and gently touched her hand, just the lightest brush of his fingers against hers. "You deserve to be remembered, Zara. You deserve to be celebrated." The sincerity in his voice nearly undid her. "I should get back," she managed. "Of course." Lucas helped her into the wagon, and they rode back to town as the stars began to emerge overhead. The social was still going strong at the church, music and laughter spilling out into the night. But Zara had no desire to be anywhere but here, beside this man who had somehow seen her in a way no one else ever had. When they reached the boarding house, Lucas walked her to the door. "I'd like to call on you," he said. "Properly, I mean, if that would be all right with you." Zara's heart raced. "Yes," she said, "I'd like that." Lucas's smile was like sunrise. "Good. I'll come by the store tomorrow after church if that suits." "It suits," Zara confirmed. She went inside and climbed the stairs to her room, carrying the leftover cake and a feeling so unfamiliar it took her a while to name it. Happiness. She was happy. The next day, true to his word, Lucas appeared at the general store in the early afternoon. Mr. Donnelly, who'd clearly anticipated this, told Zara she could take an extended dinner break. Lucas took her to the small restaurant on Main Street, where they ate sandwiches and pie and talked for 2 hours straight. Zara learned that Lucas had inherited the ranch at 20 when his father died, that he'd built it up through hard work and careful management, that he employed 15 men and treated them fairly, which was why they stayed. She learned that he loved the land, the challenge of working with it rather than against it, the satisfaction of seeing cattle thrive and his efforts bear fruit. Lucas learned that Zara had educated herself through borrowed books, that she could do mathematics in her head faster than most people could with pencil and paper, that she'd always dreamed of having a home of her own, a place where she belonged and was wanted. "You could have that here," Lucas said, "if you wanted it." "Maybe," Zara said, allowing herself to hope just a little. The courtship began in earnest after that. Lucas came to town 3 times a week instead of once, always with some excuse about needing supplies or having business at the bank. But really, they both knew to see Zara. He took her on rides through the countryside, showing her the wide open spaces of the territory, teaching her to see the beauty in the harsh landscape. He brought her flowers, clumsy bouquets of wildflowers that she treasured more than roses. He talked to her about his dreams for the ranch, about wanting to build something lasting, about the life he hoped to create. Zara, for her part, found herself opening up in ways she never had before. She told Lucas about her lonely childhood, her difficult stepmother, her years of solitary survival. She shared her fears and her hopes, and he listened with a patience and understanding that made her feel truly seen for the first time in her life. By late September, when the brutal heat of summer had finally begun to ease, Zara realized she was falling in love with Lucas Brennan. It was a terrifying and exhilarating feeling, made more intense by her complete lack of experience with such emotions. One Sunday afternoon, Lucas took her back to his ranch for dinner. Maria greeted Zara like an old friend, and after they ate, Lucas led her outside to watch the sunset from the porch. "I want to tell you something," Lucas said as they sat side by side on the porch swing. "And I hope it doesn't scare you off." Zara's stomach fluttered with nerves. "All right. I'm in love with you," Lucas said simply, turning to face her. "I have been since about the second time I saw you, when you were so focused on measuring out that coffee that you got this little line right here between your eyebrows." He reached out and gently touched the spot he meant. "I know it's fast, and I know we haven't known each other long, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Zara felt tears prick her eyes, but this time she didn't fight them. "I love you too," she whispered. "I didn't know I could feel like this." Lucas cupped her face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle. "Can I kiss you?" Zara nodded, not trusting her voice. When Lucas's lips met hers, it was soft and sweet and perfect, a first kiss that promised countless more to come. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "Marry me," Lucas said, the words tumbling out as if he couldn't hold them back. "I know I should wait, should court you properly for months, but I don't want to. I want you to be my wife, to share this ranch and this life with me. I want to give you the home you've always dreamed of, the family you deserve. Marry me, Zara." Zara's heart felt too big for her chest. Every rational part of her said this was too fast, too soon, too risky. But the part of her that had been lonely for so long, that had found in Lucas a kindness and love she'd never dared hope for, was louder. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." Lucas let out a whoop of joy and swept her into his arms, spinning her around until they were both laughing breathlessly. When he set her down, he kissed her again, deeper this time, and Zara felt the promise of their future in that kiss. They were married 3 weeks later in the small church in Coolidge, with Mary and Samuel as witnesses, and what seemed like half the town in attendance. Zara wore a simple white dress that Maria had helped her sew, and Lucas wore his best suit, and when they exchanged vows, Zara's voice was steady and sure. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up outside and food enough to feed an army. The ranch hands played music, and Lucas taught Zara to dance, holding her close and guiding her through the steps with patient encouragement. "See," he murmured in her ear, "dancing's not so hard." "Not when I have the right partner," Zara replied, and felt his chest rumble with pleased laughter. That night, as they lay together in Lucas's large bed for the first time, Zara marveled at the turn her life had taken. Just months ago, she'd been alone and forgotten in Kansas City. Now she had a husband who loved her, a home that was hers, a future that stretched bright and promising before her. "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, pulling her closer against his side. "That I'm happy," Zara said, "truly, completely happy." "Good," Lucas said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "That's all I want for the rest of our lives, your happiness. And yours," Zara insisted. "You are my happiness," Lucas said simply, and Zara knew he meant it. The months that followed were a period of adjustment and discovery. Zara learned the rhythms of ranch life, the early mornings and long days, the constant work that went into keeping everything running smoothly. She learned to cook with Maria's patient instruction, to manage the household accounts, to ride a horse without looking like she was about to fall off at any moment. Lucas, in turn, learned the depths of Zara's intelligence and capability. She reorganized his record-keeping system, making it more efficient and easier to track profits and expenses. She suggested improvements to the water management that saved them precious resources during the dry season. She proved to be a natural with the ranch hands, firm but fair, and they quickly came to respect her as much as they did Lucas. But it wasn't all work. Lucas made sure they took time for each other, for quiet evenings on the porch watching the stars, for rides through the countryside just to see what they could see, for lazy Sunday mornings in bed when the work could wait a few hours. He was attentive and affectionate, always ready with a touch or a kiss or words of love, and Zara bloomed under his care like a flower finally given enough water and sun. In December, as they approached their first Christmas together, Lucas asked Zara what she wanted. "I have everything I need," she said honestly. "You, this home, this life, what more could I want still?" Lucas pressed. "There must be something." Zara thought about it. "A family," she said finally. "Children of our own, but that will come in its own time, I suppose." Lucas pulled her into his arms. "I hope it comes soon," he said. "I keep imagining little ones running around this ranch, filling it with noise and laughter. I want that with you." "So do I," Zara whispered. On Christmas morning, Lucas woke her early and led her outside to the barn. There, in one of the stalls, was a beautiful chestnut mare with a white blaze. "She's yours," Lucas said. "I know you've been borrowing one of the ranch horses, but I wanted you to have one of your own. Her name's Stella." Zara was overwhelmed. She'd never owned anything so fine, so purely for her own pleasure. She threw her arms around Lucas's neck and kissed him soundly. "Thank you. She's perfect." They rode together that afternoon, just the two of them, out across the winter-brown grasslands. The air was crisp and clear, and their breath puffed white in the cold. When they stopped to rest the horses on a small rise, Lucas pulled Zara close. "This is our land," he said, gesturing to the vista before them. "Ours and our children's and our children's children. We're building something here, Zara, something that will last." "I know," Zara said, leaning her head on his shoulder, "and I'm so grateful to be doing it with you." The new year of 1884 brought changes. In February, Zara realized her monthly courses had stopped. When she mentioned it to Maria, the older woman's eyes lit up with knowing joy. "You are with child," Maria said confidently. "I have seen this many times. You will see, in a few weeks you will be certain." Zara's heart raced with hope and fear. She'd never thought much about motherhood before, but now, married to Lucas and settled in this life, the idea filled her with longing. She waited 2 more weeks before telling Lucas, wanting to be sure. When she finally gathered the courage one evening after supper, Lucas was reading correspondence at his desk. Zara stood in the doorway, twisting her hands nervously. "Lucas, I need to tell you something." He looked up immediately, hearing the tremor in her voice. "What is it? Are you all right?" "I'm fine, better than fine." Zara took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." For a moment, Lucas just stared at her. Then he was on his feet, crossing the room in 3 long strides, sweeping her into his arms with a shout of pure joy. "Are you sure? When? How are you feeling?" Zara laughed at his barrage of questions. "I'm sure. Maria thinks it will be early September, and I'm feeling well, just a bit tired sometimes." Lucas set her down gently, as if she'd suddenly become fragile. "This is the best news, the absolute best. We're going to be parents." "We are," Zara confirmed, and felt her own joy mirrored in his eyes. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though the Arizona summer heat was brutal for a woman growing heavy with child. Lucas fussed over her constantly, insisting she rest more and work less, bringing her cool water and anything else she might want. Maria took over most of the household duties, shooing Zara away whenever she tried to help. "You are growing a baby," Maria said firmly. "That is work enough." In early August, a month before the baby was due, Lucas surprised Zara with a beautifully crafted cradle, made by one of the ranch hands who was skilled with woodworking. It was smooth and sturdy, perfect for their coming child. "I can't believe we're almost parents," Zara said, running her hand over the cradle's edge. "Sometimes I still feel like that lonely girl from Kansas City, and then I look at all this and I can't believe it's real." "It's real," Lucas assured her, kneeling beside her chair and placing his hand on her swollen belly. "And it's only going to get better." On September 8, 1884, Zara went into labor, Maria sent one of the hands for the doctor while she prepared the bedroom. Lucas held Zara's hand through the long hours, his face pale with worry but his grip steady and strong. "I'm here," he kept saying. "I'm right here, love. You can do this." And she did. Just after dawn on September 9th, Zara gave birth to a healthy baby girl with dark hair and gray-blue eyes like her father's. The doctor pronounced both mother and child well and left them to rest. Lucas held his daughter with shaking hands, tears streaming unashamedly down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Look at her, Zara. She's absolutely perfect." "She is," Zara agreed, exhausted but exhilarated. "What should we name her?" They discussed names throughout the pregnancy but never settled on one. Now, looking at their tiny daughter, Lucas said, "I was thinking Lily if it's a girl, after my mother, but only if you like it." "Lily," Zara repeated softly. "Lily Brennan, it's beautiful. Yes, let's name her Lily." The next few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and endless wonder. Zara had never imagined she could love anyone as fiercely as she loved this tiny person, except perhaps for Lucas. Watching him with their daughter, seeing his gentleness and devotion, only made her love him more. As Lily grew, Zara marveled at every milestone. Her first smile, her first laugh, the way she'd grab onto Lucas's finger with her whole hand. The ranch hands became doting uncles, and Maria appointed herself honorary grandmother, spoiling Lily shamelessly. By Lily's first birthday in September of 1885, Zara was pregnant again. This time, she carried differently, and Maria predicted a boy. She was right. In April of 1886, Zara gave birth to a son they named James, after Lucas's father. With 2 young children, the ranch house was indeed filled with the noise and laughter Lucas had imagined. Zara found herself busier than she'd ever been, but also more content. This was the family she'd dreamed of, the home she'd longed for. Every day was exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. One evening in June, as they sat on the porch watching Lily toddle around the yard with Lucas's watchful eye on her while James slept in Zara's arms, Lucas said, "Do you ever think about that first birthday when I brought you to the ranch?" "All the time," Zara admitted. "It changed everything." "You changed everything. You gave me a reason to celebrate," Lucas said. "Before you, I was just working, just existing, but you made everything matter more, mean more." He reached over and took her free hand. "I love you, Zara, more now than even then, if that's possible." "It's possible," Zara said, squeezing his hand, "because I feel the same way." The years rolled on. Lily grew into a bright, curious child who followed her father around the ranch and pestered the hands with endless questions. James was quieter, more serious, but with a quick mind and a kind heart. In 1888, Zara gave birth to another daughter, Rose, completing their family. Lucas expanded the ranch, buying adjacent land and increasing their herd. Zara took over more of the business management, proving to have a sharp head for finances. Together, they built the Brennan Ranch into one of the most successful operations in the territory, but success didn't change them. Lucas remained the same kind, devoted man who'd remembered a lonely woman's birthday and made it special. Zara remained grateful every day for the life they'd built together, never taking it for granted. In 1891, when Lily was 7, she asked Zara about how her parents had met. "Your father remembered my birthday when no one else ever had," Zara told her daughter. "He made it special, and that showed me the kind of man he was, kind and thoughtful and good." "That's romantic," Lily declared, though at 7 she only had a vague idea what that meant. "It is," Zara agreed. "Your father is the most romantic man I know." That evening she told Lucas what Lily had said. He laughed and pulled her close. "I just did what seemed right. You deserve to be celebrated. You've been celebrating me every day since, Zara said. Do you know that? The way you love me, the way you treat me, it's like every day is a birthday. Good, Lucas said, kissing her softly, because you deserve every bit of it. As the children grew, they learned the story of their parents' courtship, of how a lonely woman came to Arizona seeking only work and found love instead, of how a rancher saw someone who needed to be remembered and made sure she was. It became a family story, told and retold, a reminder of the foundation their family was built on. In 1895, when Arizona Territory was still growing and changing, Lucas decided to build a new, larger house. The ranch had prospered beyond his earlier dreams, and he wanted space for their growing family and any future grandchildren. I want it to be perfect for you, he told Zara as they looked over the plans. Everything you ever wanted in a home. As long as you're in it, it will be, Zara said. But yes, more space would be wonderful, maybe a real library. I've always dreamed of having a room just for books. Then you'll have one, Lucas promised. The new house was completed in early 1896, a sprawling adobe structure with a wide porch, large windows, and yes, a library for Zara, lined with shelves Lucas had built himself. They moved in just before Lily's 12th birthday, and the children ran through the rooms claiming their spaces with shouts of delight. That night, as they christened their new bedroom, Zara looked at Lucas in the lamplight and marveled at how little he'd changed in the 13 years since they'd met. There was more gray in his hair now and lines around his eyes from years of squinting into the sun, but he was still the same man who'd seen her and chosen to remember her birthday. "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, pulling her closer. "That I'm the luckiest woman alive," Zara said. "That I could have lived my whole life and never known love like this, but instead I found you." "I'm the lucky one," Lucas countered. "You made this life worth living, Zara. Before you, I was going through the motions. With you, everything has meaning." They made love slowly, tenderly in their new home, and afterward lay tangled together as they'd done countless times before. "You remember what you wished for?" Lucas asked suddenly. "That first birthday when you blew out the candle," Zara smiled in the darkness. "I wished for more of this. For the possibility that I might not always be alone." "And," Lucas prompted. "And I got everything I wished for and more," Zara said. "So much more than I ever dared hope for." The turn of the century brought changes to Arizona Territory and to the Brennan family. Lily, at 15, was growing into a young woman with her mother's intelligence and her father's determination. James, at 14, was already working the ranch alongside his father, showing a natural aptitude for the work. Rose, at 12, was the artist of the family, always drawing or painting the landscape around them. Lucas and Zara watched their children grow with pride and a touch of melancholy for the passage of time. But they also found new depths to their own relationship, discovering that love could deepen and mature like good wine. In 1902, Lily announced she wanted to go to college in California to study business. It was a bold idea for a young woman, but Lucas and Zara had raised their daughter to reach for what she wanted. "If that's what you want, we'll make it happen," Lucas said, though Zara could see the sadness in his eyes at the thought of his little girl leaving. "She'll come back," Zara assured him later that night. "She loves this ranch as much as we do. She just needs to spread her wings first." "When did you get so wise?" Lucas asked, pulling her close. "I married a good teacher," Zara replied. Lily left for California in the fall of 1902, and the house felt emptier without her bright presence. But she wrote often, long letters full of her studies and her experiences, and she came home every summer, usually bringing new ideas for improving the ranch. James took over more responsibility as he approached his 20th birthday, and Lucas began talking seriously about the future, about passing the ranch to his son when the time came. But that time was still far off, as Lucas was only 44 and in excellent health. In 1904, on Zara's birthday, Lucas surprised her with a party. Not a small family celebration, but a real party with friends and neighbors from all over the territory. The new house was filled with music and laughter and good food, and Zara was overwhelmed by the love and friendship that surrounded her. "You did all this for me?" she asked Lucas, tears in her eyes. "It's your birthday," Lucas said simply. "You should always be celebrated on your birthday." Zara looked around at the people who'd become her friends over the years, at her children laughing together, at Maria beaming proudly, at Lucas watching her with such love in his eyes, and felt her heart overflow. 21 years ago, I turned 23 alone and forgotten," she said to the assembled guests. "Today, I turned 44 surrounded by more love than I knew existed. And it's all because of this man who saw me when I felt invisible, who remembered me when no one else did, who made my birthday special and has been making my life special ever since. I'm the most blessed woman in the world." There wasn't a dry eye in the house, least of all Lucas's. He kissed her right there in front of everyone, a sweet, lingering kiss that prompted cheers and applause. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the children were asleep, Lucas and Zara sat on the porch swing watching the stars. "You ever regret it?" Zara asked. "Marrying me so quickly? Taking a chance on someone you barely knew?" "Never," Lucas said firmly. "Not for 1 second. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Zara, the absolute best thing." "You saved me," Zara said softly. "I didn't even know I needed saving, but you did. You saw me and you remembered me and you loved me. How can I ever thank you for that?" "Just keep loving me back," Lucas said. "That's all the thanks I need." And she did. Through all the years that followed, through the joys and challenges that life brought, Zara loved Lucas with a depth and devotion that never wavered. When Lily married a young attorney she'd met in California and brought him back to Arizona, Zara and Lucas celebrated. When James married a rancher's daughter from a neighboring spread and brought her into the family, they celebrated again. When Rose decided to move to Phoenix to teach art, they supported her dreams. The grandchildren came, one by one, filling the ranch with new life and laughter. Lucas and Zara became the beloved patriarch and matriarch of a growing family, but their love for each other remained the foundation everything else was built on. In 1912, when Arizona finally achieved statehood, Lucas and Zara attended the celebration in Phoenix. They'd been part of the territory's growth and transformation, and seeing it become a state was deeply meaningful. "We've been part of history," Zara marveled. "We've made our own history," Lucas corrected, "our own story." And what a story it was. From a lonely woman who'd never had anyone remember her birthday, to a wife, mother, and grandmother surrounded by love. From a cowboy working his father's ranch to a successful rancher with a legacy that would span generations. From a chance meeting in a general store to a love that had weathered decades and only grown stronger. In 1920, Lucas and Zara celebrated their 37th wedding anniversary. Their children threw them a party at the ranch, and the house overflowed with family and friends. Lily was there with her husband and 3 children. James came with his wife and 4 children. Rose arrived from Phoenix with her husband, a fellow artist she'd married late but happily. As Zara looked around at the people gathered to celebrate their love, she was struck by how much had grown from that one simple act of kindness. A man remembering a woman's birthday. "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, appearing at her elbow with 2 glasses of punch. That it all started with you, Zara said. All of this, all these people, this entire life. It started because you cared enough to remember my birthday. Lucas handed her a glass and clinked his against it. Best decision I ever made, he said. Aside from asking you to marry me, of course. Of course, Zara echoed, smiling. They danced that night, despite being in their 60s, moving together with the ease of longtime partners who knew each other's rhythms as well as their own. Their children watched with fond smiles, and their grandchildren giggled at the sight of their grandparents being romantic. I love you, Lucas whispered in Zara's ear as they swayed to the music. Just as much now as I did that first birthday, maybe more. Definitely more, Zara said. Love grows, after all, and ours has had plenty of time to grow. To another 37 years, Lucas said. At least, Zara agreed. They lived to see more grandchildren born, to see the ranch continue to prosper under James's capable management with Lily's business acumen helping from afar. They lived to see the roaring 20s bring change to Arizona and the wider world. They lived to see Rose become a respected artist, whose paintings of the Arizona landscape were shown in galleries across the Southwest. Through it all, Lucas and Zara remained devoted to each other. They took walks together every evening, weather permitting. They still sat on the porch swing and watched the stars. They still kissed goodnight every evening and good morning every day. They still found joy in each other's company after decades of marriage. On Zara's 60th birthday in 1921, Lucas gave her a leather-bound journal filled with photographs and mementos from their life together. There were pictures from their wedding, from the children's births, from holidays and everyday moments. There were pressed flowers from bouquets he'd given her over the years. There were ticket stubs from the few times they'd traveled to bigger cities. There were notes they'd written each other, recipes Maria had shared, drawings the grandchildren had made. This is our story, Lucas said as Zara paged through it with tears streaming down her face. Everything important, all in one place, so we never forget how blessed we've been. As if I could ever forget, Zara said. Every day with you has been a gift, Lucas, every single day. They added to the journal over the years, tucking in new photographs and memories. It became a treasured family heirloom, a record of a love that had started with a simple act of kindness and grown into something extraordinary. In 1930, as the Great Depression gripped the nation, the Brennan Ranch struggled like everyone else. But the family pulled together, tightened their belts, and weathered the storm. Lucas was in his 70s by then, and he'd turned over most of the ranch operations to James, but he still rode out every day to check on things. You don't have to, you know, Zara told him one morning. James has everything under control. I know, Lucas said, but I need to. This ranch is in my blood, Zara, always has been. Just be careful, Zara said, kissing him. I need you around a while longer yet. I'm not going anywhere, Lucas promised, and he kept that promise. Through the hard years of the Depression, through the recovery that followed, Lucas remained strong and vital. His hair was white now, and his movements slower, but his mind was sharp and his love for Zara undiminished. In 1933, they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. The family threw an enormous party, with people coming from all over the state. Zara wore a new dress for the occasion, and Lucas wore his best suit, and they renewed their vows in front of everyone they loved. 50 years ago, I promised to love and cherish you for the rest of my life, Lucas said, his voice still strong despite his age. That was the easiest promise I ever made and the most rewarding one I ever kept. I love you, Zara Brennan, today and always. 50 years ago, I could never have imagined this life, Zara replied. I was alone and forgotten, and you saw me. You remembered me. You loved me. And you've been loving me ever since, making every day special, not just my birthday. I love you, Lucas Brennan, with everything I am." There wasn't a dry eye at the ceremony, and the celebration that followed was joyous and loud and perfect. As the years continued to pass, Lucas and Zara grew old together with grace and gratitude. They watched their grandchildren grow up and have children of their own, making them great-grandparents. They saw the ranch continue to thrive, a testament to the foundation Lucas had built and the family they'd created together. In 1940, when World War II loomed on the horizon, they worried for their grandsons who would likely be called to serve. But they also had faith in the strength and resilience of the family they'd built. One evening in June of 1943, as they sat on the porch as they'd done for nearly 60 years, Zara looked at Lucas and saw the young cowboy who'd walked into the general store all those years ago. Oh, he was old now, his face lined with age and his hair white as snow, his body bent with decades of hard work. But his eyes were the same, still that winter sky blue, still warm when they looked at her. "What are you staring at?" Lucas asked, amused. "You," Zara said. "I'm trying to memorize you, every detail, so that wherever I am, whatever happens, I'll always be able to see you clearly." Lucas's expression softened. "We've had a good run, haven't we?" "The best," Zara agreed. "Better than I ever dreamed possible." "Any regrets?" Lucas asked. Zara thought about it seriously. "None," she said finally. "Not a single one. You?" "Only that I didn't meet you sooner," Lucas said. "That we didn't have even more years together." "We've had 60 good years," Zara said. "That's more than most people get." "True enough," Lucas agreed. He reached over and took her hand, his grip still firm despite his age. "I love you, Zara. That's never changed, not once in all these years." "I love you too," Zara said. "More than words can say." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in the brilliant colors of an Arizona sunset. Around them, the ranch hummed with life, with family, with the legacy they'd built together. In the distance, they could hear their great-grandchildren playing, their voices high and happy. "We did good," Lucas said quietly. "We did," Zara agreed. Lucas Brennan passed away peacefully in his sleep in October of 1943, with Zara holding his hand. He was 83 years old and had lived a full, rich life. The funeral drew hundreds of people, all whose lives he'd touched with his kindness and integrity. Zara grieved deeply, but without bitterness. She'd had 60 years with the love of her life, 60 years of being cherished and remembered and celebrated. Not everyone could say that. She lived on at the ranch, surrounded by family, for another 5 years. She spent her time with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, telling them stories of their grandfather, of the cowboy who'd remembered a lonely woman's birthday and changed both their lives forever. On her birthday in 1948, just a few months before she died, the family gathered to celebrate. Zara was 87 years old, and her body was frail, but her mind was sharp and her heart was full. "Tell us the story again, Grandma," one of her great-granddaughters asked. "About how Grandpa Lucas remembered your birthday." So Zara told the story one more time about being 23 and alone, about a kind cowboy who'd seen her when she felt invisible, about a birthday celebration that had become so much more. "He loved me," Zara said simply. "Every day, in 1,000 small ways, he loved me. And that made all the difference." Zara Brennan died peacefully in her sleep in December of 1948, surrounded by the family she and Lucas had created. She was buried beside her husband on a hill overlooking the ranch they'd built together, under the vast Arizona sky they'd both loved. Their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren continued the legacy they'd started. The Brennan Ranch prospered for generations, always remembering the foundation it was built on. A love that started with a simple act of kindness. A man who remembered when no one else did, who made a lonely woman's birthday special and in doing so, made both their lives extraordinary. The story of Lucas and Zara Brennan became family legend, told and retold to each new generation as an example of how love should be, constant and devoted, celebrating the beloved not just on special occasions but every single day. It was a story of seeing and being seen, of remembering and being remembered, of two people who found in each other everything they'd been searching for. And it all started with a birthday, one special day that a cowboy made sure a woman would never forget, because in his heart, he already knew she was unforgettable. From that single act of kindness grew a love that spanned decades, raised a family, built an empire, and left a legacy that would endure long after both of them were gone. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person who sees you, really sees you, and chooses to remember. Sometimes that's enough to change everything. For Zara Caldwell, who became Zara Brennan, that was exactly what happened. She'd never had anyone remember her birthday before Lucas did, and he made it something special. He made her something special. And together, they made a life that was more special than either of them could have imagined. A life built on love, devotion, and the simple but profound act of remembering.